Brian.
I want to thank you for that. I have a son who's a Marine, and
Thank you.
I also want to thank you for elevating the level of the debates, and I want to encourage all of the participants to continue to raise that level. Do you feel that our system has become mercantilist? Do we have too much government control of the economy?
Yeah.
And how are we going to address that?
Yeah, the answer is we do have too much government control of the economy. I think that's why I said, Obamacare is really the fundamental issue, that we have this idea that government can micromanage. One of the proposals I've laid out there is that the Obama administration has just last year put forth 150 regulations that cost over $100 million a year to the business community. That is 2.5 times the average over the past 16 years. It's an explosion of micromanagement of businesses. And what I've said is I'll take every one of those regulations, not just last year, but all through the Obama administration, repeal them all. You can't repeal laws,
but aren't you
can
afraid?
Repeal regulations.
But candidly, aren't you afraid of clean air, clean water, workplace safety?
Yeah, but there are ways to first off, I am concerned about that. But the president just put in a regulation effective January 1 that's going to put about 60 coal-fired power plants out of business. And it's all mercury regulations. And it's one of those things where you'd have to sit there and sit outside of a power plant, a coal-fired power plant, and eat dirt for 16 years of your life, and before you get some trace of a problem. These scientific, quote, pseudo-scientific studies are not based on the reality of the exposure that people are going to get. And we have taken environmental regulation to the point, because now we can measure in such minuscule amounts, we now require enormous costs for absolutely insignificant health and safety benefits. We have to look at the cost to society for the improvement in health. And look, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I want to jump in because there's so much they want to ask you. What advice do you have for him? Very quickly, what advice?
Stay with what you're doing right now. You blossom tonight.
What advice?
I don't have advice because, well, you don't have the private sector experience, and that's what worries me.
Well, stay on the core conservative values, but be specific.
Gotcha.
You got to get better with taxes. You got to get a plan that's going to make sense, that's going to be more simplified, that's not so, well, it was okay for Reagan, it's not okay anymore. We need something that's concrete and simple.
And your reaction?
My reaction is I have 2 tax rates. 10%, which is the low right now, and 28%. We expand the 10% bracket. We have 5 deductions: children, charities, pensions, healthcare, and housing. Everything else in the tax code goes away. It's very simple. We have a corporate tax. We cut it in half, make it a net profits tax. Very simple. No bells and whistles, so big businesses pay less taxes than small business. We're going to equalize the playing field between big and small. The only exception to that is manufacturing. For a manufacturing process in America, you pay no corporate taxes. Why? Why do we treat them differently? Because the rest of the corporations in America aren't having their jobs being shipped overseas and competing with overseas. And that's why we have to have a tax rate that competes with what we have to deal with in China and Mexico and a whole bunch of other countries.
Do you agree with him?
Yes.
Now, go ahead. You brought a very special guest, and I have a very special present, so if you can bring her on.
This is my mother, who I had an opportunity to introduce to America tonight. This is my mom, Kay Santorum, and she lives here in North Florida, and that's my brother, who, as I mentioned before, is a Gator, which I probably shouldn't say again. And
I have a present for Mrs. Santorum.
Gar.
What do you think? Steve Penley painted this for your son. Let's get this a nice shot. What do you think?
I think it looks like Rick.
There you go.
There you go. Everyone, Senator Santorum, thank you very much for coming. And congratulations on winning debates. And when we come back, the congressional duo that's going to knock your socks off, and Allen West. Stay tuned. In the more than 200 years of American history, only 3 couples have served in Congress at the same time, and only 2 have come from different states. But never, until now, do you have one in the most eastern state, Florida, and the most western state, California. Please join me in welcoming Mary Bono Mack and Connie Mack. Join me in welcoming them. I don't understand. I know that you met while you were both members of Congress, but what I don't understand is, with people disliking Congress so much, why would the two of you want to serve? How many of you have a favorable impression of Congress? Raise your hands. Okay, you're deaf. 0 out of 26. Why do you want to serve?
Oh, it's definitely a great calling to serve. You know, I have children. When my first husband, Sonny, passed away, people encouraged me to run. My children were very small.
Sonny Bono, I'm also a member of Congress.
And they were 6 and 9. And people turned to me, and I've turned to my children. I think you hear that a lot from politicians. They think about their children and what it means to fight for them and to fight for what you believe in. So I think it's without a doubt a calling. And you always believe that you can do better in serving your country than the next guy would if you got out of the way.
And speaking of the next guy standing next to you, you come from a political family.
Yes. You know, in response to that question, I remember when my father decided that he was going to retire from the Senate. He was announcing his retirement, and he said that politics was an honorable profession where men and women can make a difference, and he would encourage anybody who wants to try to make America better and stronger to get involved. And I remember standing with him going, I wonder if he thinks that's me. And I do think that politics, it's a tough, aggressive sport almost, but it's important because we're talking about the future of America and the future of freedom.
So what frustrates you the most about Congress right now?
Well, Congress, I think the thing that frustrates me the most is that they think they know more than what we know.
Terry.
Can't pass a budget.
Robert.
Too many Democrats.
Good answer.
I'm frustrated about Congress that I feel like the president thinks you're not doing anything, but when you stand against him, you are exhibiting your right to say we don't want that for our country.
So what do you want them to do? Compromise or stand on principle?
Stand on principle. Work for the people.
Your reaction?
Well, I guess, and first of all, I apologize. I've lost my voice tonight. It couldn't come at a worse time. But, you know, for me, I've been a member of the House for 14 years. And, you know, there are times when we do have to stand on principle, absolutely. But there are also times where you need to recognize you are dealt a certain hand. And we have a Democrat Senate and a Democrat in the White House. So we have, you know, half of 1/3 of the government. And we are trying to make the trains run on time, trying to make our future better for our children, and recognizing we're dealt, you know, two twos if you're a poker player. I don't know, is that a bad hand? A 2 and a 3 sounds worse. So you try to still, you know, you have to know when to fight. And there are times you do really have to know when to reach across the aisle and find common ground. This past August, I passed a bill with bipartisan support. Democrats supported it. You know, I found common ground with them that really saved thousands of jobs. I took them on some regulations that I thought were overburdensome. They agreed, I got it done.
Brad, do you want them to fight Obama more or less?
I would like them to fight Obama more, stand on principle, say what you believe, and just let him know.
Stuart, more or less?
More or less what?
Fight Obama.
Fight him to the tooth, yeah.
How many of you want them to fight Obama even more than they are? Raise your hands.
Yeah, absolutely.
What's that message for you?
Well, this, you know, and I think this represents Florida. And, you know, I'm fortunate to represent a district in Southwest Florida. And I have said, you know, at a time, Obama and others would say they don't want to compromise. They don't want to do anything. But if you're compromising to something that you know is going to hurt America and not create opportunity for our children and grandchildren, why would you make that compromise? It doesn't make any sense. You know, so I think principles are very important. It is what guides you in your life. And so to stand there and say, well, I'll take a little bit less of something that I know is going to hurt the future of America and freedom, that's something I'm not willing to do. Okay. I think you have to stand on principle.